to this Digital Tech Cumbria webinar. Thank you very much for being here. This webinar will take about an hour, and you'll be able to watch and also watch the recording again later if you want to refer back. Digital Tech Cumbria is helping Cumbrian businesses to embrace digital technology and thrive, with fully funded support worth up to £5,000, and we'll give you a little bit more detail about that at the end of this webinar. So today's webinar is about defining your brand, product and customer base. In a world full of online information, how can you stand out and connect with your visitors who will love your business? And so we're going to go through today's webinar with a series of topics to help you define your brand, product, customer base. First of all, I want to just say that my name is Emily Whitehead, and I'm one of the coaches as part of the Digital Tech Cumbria programme. My experience really lies very much in tourism, but also working with small businesses of all sizes across the UK, specifically concentrating on marketing, digital marketing and communications management. So today we're really going to talk about a few little facts about branding and about how audiences and customers perceive branding and how they feel about different kinds of businesses and the way they tell their story. We're going to explore brand and story, how to make sure that yours is sharp, that yours is clear and defined, and how to turn that into a story and content that your customers and your audience will value and also resonate with. We're going to talk about who your people are, so defining customer base and making sure that you are able to profile your customers effectively, especially in this particularly ever-changing world that we live in at the moment, making sure that you're staying up to date with your customers and building strong and confident relationships. We're also going to talk about what you're really selling and creating strategy around brand, story, customer profiling, and making sure that you understand exactly what you're selling in order that you can plan and build a resilient business that is able to weather changes and evolutions over this autumn and winter and into beyond. And obviously we will finish off the webinar with some key takeaways for you to take away. Okay, so I want to start by talking about some of the facts and figures around branding and how businesses can really augment what they do and improve their customer relationships by getting their brand and story right and being clear and defined in what in how you're communicating, but also what you're communicating. So 89% of consumers stay loyal to brands that share their values. A value or a brand value is vital, and we'll talk about that in a moment. It's really important that your customers, your visitors, your audience feel that they connect and resonate with you about a whole range of different areas, whether that is something to do with sustainable or green tourism, it might be to do with your commitment to your local community or area, it might be to do with the way that you manage your supply chains, the way that you source products or services. All those sorts of things are vital, as well as any kind of personal values that you might bring into your business. For those of you who have small brands and small businesses, you will be able to, it might be, the values might be around your family or your own story about being in Cumbria or the location you're in. It takes 5 to 7 impressions for people to remember a brand. So in the old days, certainly when I was first working in marketing and sales, we used to say that people used to have to see or hear about your brand 5 to 7 times before they remembered. And really, this is just the digital tech version of that, the impressions, how they see, where they see your brand, how they see it. And they have to be able to see that so much more often in this day and age to really remember you. And obviously in a noisy digital social media world, for example, identifying with a brand and staying in connection with that brand and in relationship with that brand is sometimes more difficult for businesses, but it's also more important for consumers as a result. 73% of consumers love a brand because of great customer service. Well, that kind of sounds obvious, doesn't it? But actually, customer service, if you look at the data, has become ever more important. And really what that is not just being polite and answering questions well or giving people the right information at the right time, but it also really means about customers feeling like they resonate with you and have some kind of personal relationship with your brand, and that customer service relationship is so important. 86% of consumers prefer an authentic and honest brand personality on their social networks. Again, it sounds obvious, but actually it really shows you this very, very high figure that people do think about the authenticity, the honesty, the clarity of a brand, especially when they're scrolling through their social networks. And they're able to pick up on that using imagery, words, the colorways. They're able to understand because of the stories that you tell and the content that you share, so that everything that you share out there says something about your value system and your brand, and it's important that you have clarity on that from the outset. 39% of total time spent online is using a Google product. I've thrown that in, not because it's particularly about brand, but because it's important for us to understand how we can harness different softwares and different digital products to make sure that we can get our brand across easily and clearly and cheaply as well. And so Google products really are, or Google is still very much the leading browser and search engine across the world, but also some of their products will really help you deliver that brand consistency for your audience. And really, consistency is important. The final stat, consistent representation of a brand is shown to improve turnover by up to 33%. So again, consistency is so important. Whatever your brand might be and however slick or rustic or professional or homespun it might be, consistency is actually one of the most important factors in order that those people who are finding your business and your brand in different locations on social media and in email marketing and an ad, then they are quickly and more easily able to recognize and resonate with you. So the first thing that I really want to talk about is who you are and what's your story. So I've already established, and this is the whole point of this webinar after all, is that brand is key. But what is brand, and do you have one? So quite often, especially when I'm talking to small businesses, they feel that brand is something you can only create with, you know, a great big branding team or an expensively outsourced company that is going to come up with something really, really smart and snazzy for you. Often people think that brand might be just related to logo and colorways, but actually brand is something a lot more emotional than that. It's a lot more to do with psychology and the way people perceive what you do, why you do it, and what your story might be. Often brand is defined by what your customers actually say about you. So actually, if you're not sure if your brand is strong or if your brand is clear, one of the first things that you can do is go and have a look at what your customers are already, or your visitors are already saying about you. Is it eclectic and is it full of variety? Or do your customers and your audiences come back with very clear ideas of what your brand is? And do you have gaps in your brand where people are disappointed by it? So they may feel confused, it might be unclear, or they may even feel that you've delivered something not so well. These are difficult things for us to look at in our business, but it's really important if we're going to polish and upscale our brand that we understand what our base point is. All of you will have a brand in some way. You may not be aware of that, but you will have. So it's really important that this is strongly represented across all your channels and all your digital marketing materials or any other marketing materials that you might have. So it's important to understand that brand is emotional. Your customers, your visitors, your audience won't necessarily have sat in on your brand meeting that you had or that conversation you had with the family about how you wanted your logo to look or what's important about the place that you run or the visitor attraction that you are in control of. But actually, the way that your customers and audiences relate to your brand is very much about how they feel about it, what it looks like, what it sounds like, how they connect with your value system, what your content makes them feel like. So videos and photos, does it make them laugh? Does it make them feel serious? Does it make them feel worried? Are they inspired by what you share? So all these multitude of different factors key into what your brand is. So the first thing, and I've already mentioned this, is to really think about what your value system is. Some of you may have that very clearly defined. You may feel that you know that, but it's worth noting it down and really making sure that you and all your staff understand what that value system is, because value systems really is at the very core of a strong brand. What do values mean? Well, it could be something very specific. You could be an environmentally sustainable business. You could have eco holiday accommodation. You might have very strong values about the way that you use plastics. So it could be at that end of the scale, or it could be just a simple dedication to your location, to your area. Maybe you've in an area of outstanding natural beauty in the Lake District somewhere. Maybe you're dedicated to sharing the natural world with your customers or your visitors. Maybe your value system is really to give good, honest fun at great value to families. But it's defining that. It might quite often, when I speak to businesses, they have their values quite clearly in their mind. But the next step is to really make sure that you are sharing that clearly, regularly, and as I've already mentioned, consistently with your audiences, so that that value system is truly understood at all levels. I can certainly talk from personal experience, even as someone who teaches and trains businesses about brands and talking about value systems, is that every time I go back to my own business and have a look at it, there are always ways in which you can better explain or better share your values. So even if you think you do it really well, use this webinar as an opportunity to go back and really double check. Are there areas of your value system that you haven't talked about a lot recently? So during the pandemic and COVID, we've concentrated much of our marketing and comms on in showing people that we're safe, showing people that it's okay to come and stay, or visitors, stay with us, or visitors. We may well have moved away from some of those core values that are at the center of a business. So write those down. Write what is important to you as business owners and what is important you feel in the way that you deliver your business. This is obviously connected to strongly to your voice and your words that you might use. So quite often I talk about branding as the 3 V's, values, voice and vocab, but we're going to really concentrate on voice and words. So again, your voice for small businesses will quite often simply be your voice. One of the most complimentary things anyone can say about you if they've come across you on social media is you're just like I imagined you to be, or the business is just how they imagined from the marketing that they had seen and decided upon and booked with. So it's really important that that voice is consistent, but it's the voice that is linked with your values. So if your business is hugely serious about conservation and educating your visitors or your customer base, then you might find that your voice is relatively serious and has some gravitas. If your voice is related to a value system of giving your family visitors the best fun day out that they've had in a long time so that they're carefree and they have a giggle, then it might be that the voice that you use across your brand is light-hearted, playful, and at the level of the family market. But it is worth noting it down. It is worth making sure that that voice is consistent across all your content that you're sharing and across all your marketing. And this really is related to the words that you might use. Now, the words are important for 2 reasons. First of all, it's important that you're using words consistently to help your audience further understand what your values are and what your brand is all about. So those might be words, again, that I've already mentioned, things like fun, nature, conservation. It could be simply about the Lake District or Cumbria or your location. It could be to do with history. It could be to do with heritage. whatever is most important in your business and your value system, it's important you're using those words regularly to help people understand, but also from a search engine optimization point of view. So you need to be using and choosing words that are consistent, so that Google understands what your business is all about, but also that you're using the same vocabulary as those people who might be searching for a business like yours. So I'll give you an example. I've worked with a business that works with micro businesses, but also those businesses are described on the internet as small businesses. So their value system is very specifically talking about working with micro businesses, tiny businesses, but actually it's not very useful to use that word all the time as part of their marketing material, because the word small business is much better recognized by those who are searching for that kind of information. So think too about the searchability of the words that you're using. Use things like just a simple Google search, or use Google Trends, for example, as a way to find out what the keywords are. Once you've got all that in place and you've really checked and written down your 3 V's, even if you're confident with them and you've written them down again, it's important to define your story. Now, what is story? Story is a mechanism by which you can really resonate, connect, and create lots of different touch points with your audiences across all your channels, so that they really start to build a relationship with your brand. So anything that you are sharing online as part of your content, video, photos, a blog post, a vlog, a piece of information or text on your website, really can start to tell that story. So how do you create story within your brand? The most important thing is, like any good story from your childhood or from, you know, a recent book you've read, think about the people first. So who are the people in your business and how do people get to know them? So this might be your staff, it might be your family, it might be the sheep in your field. It's important that there are characters within that story that people get to know and recognize. It's important too to think about place. So the very nature of the visitor economy and tourism is that it's very place-based. So people can start to really understand that part of your story, understand your location, the importance of the landscape, nature, the importance of your location. And so that, you know, that context is important in any part of the story that you tell. Think too about the history or the future of your business. So part of your story may be that you have been a family business for many generations, or that your business is part of a diversified farm that's been part of your family for a long time. It could be your history is that you are the only visitor attraction of its kind in your location. Or it could just be all about your future if you're a new business. So people love to know where you're going, what you're trying to achieve, what you're planning to do. So make sure that there is a past and a future to help people really embed what your brand is and where it sits today. And also, of course, finally, your story is about something special about you. So people talk about USPs, you know, unique selling points. They are important, I guess, but in many ways, no, you know, there is really no such thing as a USP in this modern marketing world, unless you've invented a widget to get to Mars. Really, most things can be repeated in some way. You know, lots of 4-star bed and breakfasts in a single town, you know, the same, maybe 2 or 3 great family attractions in your local area. So what makes yours special compared to somebody else's, and bringing that special in, or that magic, into your story is vital always. Okay, so once you've got your brand and your values and your story absolutely clear, and take some time to really note that down and share it with your staff or your colleagues. And if you are a micro business yourself, and it's just you or maybe 1 or 2 people, you know, reach out and either access a coach through this program in a one-to-one way to really help you define that, or just talk to your own networks to get some feedback about whether they think you've got it quite right, or what they think about what you're talking about. But it's important too to think about who your people are. So defining your customer base is vital, not only because it's vital for any good business and for any resilience in business, but it's also vital right now. 2020 has proved to be a year of huge change and huge challenges. A pandemic, as we have experienced and are experiencing, means that our customer base may well be evolving rapidly. They may be changing their opinions, their likes and dislikes. They may have become a lot more cautious or a lot more free and easy. They may have got different core values than they had previously. So it's important that, yes, you know who your core sectors are, but you understand how they're evolving. It's important to understand that for any other, or understand too, if there are any other niche or emerging markets or sectors in your customer base that you may not have paid attention to before, but actually might help support your business and its resilience in this autumn and winter. You may want to attract customers or visitors that you haven't particularly tried to attract before, or you may need to pivot or change your operations so that you can give your existing core sectors the confidence that they need to come and visit you. So define your core sectors by needs and desire. In the old days, we used to define audiences by the papers they read and the supermarkets they shopped in and the cars they drove. And although some of that information isn't irrelevant, it's very difficult to define people in that way anymore. People tend to shop at multiple supermarkets. Nobody really cares about cars in the same way. And nobody really reads newspapers in the same way. So it's difficult, but if you make sure that you are defining your audience by what they need most and what they desire most from you as a business, then you are definitely 80% of the way there, because you are really connecting with them and understanding what their challenges are and how your business can solve them. Don't forget too that you will have different sectors. So you might have your core sector that you feel comes to your business year round most of the time. You may have different sectors for different parts of the year. So your summer holidays might invite different visitors or audience types compared to off season, where you may get, I don't know, more serious walkers, for example. But also think too about markets that you haven't already accessed. This will build resilience. So start to search around for people who might choose to visit or stay or use your business for the first time. Understand too their demography and geography. It's important that you do understand men, women, families, older retired couples, nature enthusiasts, adrenaline junkies, whatever your sector of the visitor economy is, or whatever your audience sector is, it's important you understand those for marketing and advertising reasons. For example, if you have got your brand and your people and your story absolutely nailed down and you feel confident, it's only at that point that you might decide to use a little bit of social media advertising, some Google advertising, for example, and understanding geography and demography at that point is going to be really important. Create personas to support your marketing activity. So this is a really useful thing to do, to really understand who you're talking to. So when you're creating content, when you're posting on social media, when you're writing an email marketing newsletter, when you're tweaking your text on your website, having that persona in mind is really, really useful. So this is really creating your very typical customer within a sector. So for example, if you attract families with young children in the summer holidays, and you want to focus in on that sector, then you might decide to create some personas around that. And that might be parents or two parents. It might be 1, 2, or 3 children. You might like to say that they come from a particular area. They are budget conscious. They like to shop at Aldi and they like to bring their own picnic, but have a treat and an ice cream. Building up this kind of persona is really useful, so that when you're using your voice and sharing your brand consistently, you're doing it in a way that really connects well with that customer base. It's okay to have multiple personas too, and putting them up on a whiteboard in the office is super useful, especially when you're busy and rushed off your feet. And think about too where their digital activity is. So again, it's really important that you understand where these personas hang out. Are they Facebook users? Are they Instagram dreamers? Are they Twitter activists? What is the place or the way in which they like to get information to? Create systems to build relationships. So what do I mean by that? It's important when you're thinking about how you're going to connect with your audience and who your audience is to start to, we'll talk about customer journey in a minute, but to start to think about, for example, if they're Facebook enthusiasts and they love watching your videos, how do you then strengthen that relationship by getting them to subscribe to an email service, or getting them to check out your latest deals, or getting them to visit your website booking page for the first time? So how do you incentivize and strengthen those relationships? And what systems have you got in place so that you consistently provide that opportunity for them to deepen their relationship with your brand? How do you know all that? Well, we can talk about this a little bit at the end of the webinar, but it's important to think about Google Analytics, for example, will help you understand where your audience comes from when they get to your website, what bit of content has really interested them and prompted them to visit your website or booking page, for example. Facebook or Instagram insights are also hugely useful to help you understand the ways in which your audience are interacting and engaging with your social media, but also how that might be changing over time. So both these tools, analytics and insights, you can set the date bracket or the date window in which you look and study. So you might decide to go and have a look over a whole year and see how it's evolved during 2020 and the pandemic. And this will give you really useful, but possibly very subtle, but useful insights about how your audiences might be evolving, changing, or altering the way that they engage with your business. And this allows you to be ahead of the game, and also to make those subtle and equally important tweaks to your business or your marketing communications to help them stay connected and feel in relationship with your brand. Think too about reviews. Obviously, your reputation is paramount here. So what is your audience currently saying about you? Have you noticed that people have become slightly more grumpy, slightly more picky, or perhaps they have been very, very enthusiastic about something you thought was fairly irrelevant in your operations, but actually your audience have absolutely loved, and can you build on that? There are also online mapping and persona building tools, which I'll talk about in a little while. So there are very specific pieces of software that you can often access for at least a limited amount of time for free that will help you map not only your customer journey, but also the personas that you're trying to build, if you'd like to do that visually. So when we're talking about defining our brand and our customer base, we also wanted to talk about defining our product to provide more resilience for the future of your business. And when we're talking about the visitor economy and in tourism, that product is really the experience that you are selling to your customers. And in business terms, we would call this the value proposition, and this value proposition is absolutely vital. But it's really important to understand that when you look at the data, time and time again, it shows in various different age groups, from millennials to retired couples, that they will pay more or they will book longer if they feel that they are gaining experience in their life that improves their life. That means that they're first amongst their friendship group to do something, that they are going to experience something that very few other people might get to experience. And so it's really important for you to understand how making your value proposition and experience special, unique, and very unique to your brand will help you stay resilient, but actually begin to grow and to attract a wider audience. So how do you do this? One of the really useful things to do is simply list the stuff in your business. So I'm going to use the example of a 4-star bed and breakfast for ease. I appreciate not all of you are in that sector, but if, for example, you have a 4-star bed and breakfast in a town where there are 20 others, then you need to list all the stuff that you provide in your business for your customers. That might be 4-poster bed, it might be spa ensuite bathrooms, it might be room service, it might be an organic breakfast, it might be a contactless check-in. So all these different things, write every single thing down that you can think of. It could be, and that could include yourself, you know, a friendly welcome by you, the owner. Now, with all the greatest respect in your business, and I'm sure you do it beautifully, it's kind of not unique. You know, maybe everyone can cook an organic breakfast. Maybe every one of those bed and breakfasts in your town has a 4-poster bed. So again, and maybe all of you have amazing photographs. So how do you then convert that into feelings and emotions and experiences? So if you're a little bit unsure, have a look at your reviews and have a look back or a think back to what your customers have previously said. So I'll give you an example. Many moons ago, I used to run holiday accommodation for a period of time after my corporate career. I would spend hours and hours making sure that the bedrooms looked amazing with crisp white bedding. But then I used to just rush together a lemon drizzle cake to leave for customers or our visitors. And it was always the lemon drizzle cake that got the mention, not my hard work of making the bedrooms look amazing. And that's because there was a personal touch, that it was something unexpected, and it made the visitors feel cherished and looked after. So that's how you can turn a piece of cake into a feeling. Really start to attach those experiences. Why is it important that the view from your bedroom windows looks over the beautiful fells? Why is it important that as soon as they arrive, you give them a cup of tea and homemade biscuits? And it's important not because the biscuit's perfect, but because of the experience that that gives. It helps people relax. Maybe it creates a romantic atmosphere. Maybe it gives them some digital free time or allows them to have fun with their family in a busy world. So make that list of the stuff, and then for each and every piece of stuff that you sell, attach an experience to that, and you'll start to quickly build up what the experience is that you're selling. And when you're selling your business and when your brand is selling what you do, then you need to use the experience as the basis for all your marketing and not the stuff. And if you focus all your marketing on that experiential content, the words, describing the feelings, sharing the images, sharing the videos, sharing the reviews, then you will have a whole lot more success. And it will also help build really resilient, strong relationships with your customer base, because you will have answered the desires and the needs that they didn't even know they had. They might have been super stressed, and you're the one who helped them relax. And that obviously is worth $1 million to lots of people. So again, look at what the data says. Look at different sorts of content that you may have shared and how was that engaged with. So when you shared a video of somebody sinking into a gorgeous soft bed and laughing, did that get more engagement than your post that said, please go and look at our beautiful bedroom pictures? You see the difference. And fit that together with your keyword and trend jigsaw. So all of you are starting to build up quite a jigsaw now of all the different elements to create a resilient business. Clear, consistent brand, a well-defined customer sector and well-defined customer personas. And then you've also created a good, great list of the experiences that you're selling. And so you can start to link together your voice, your value, and the words, the trends that might be around too. Again, I've already mentioned Google Trends is a really useful tool to use so that you can start to define what your customers might be looking for and what experiences you might like to emphasize more strongly. One of the things that has come out when I've been talking to clients around these last few months and encouraging people to visit their tourism business from the 4th of July has been even more about experiences, but it's been something slightly different. It's about having precious time with loved ones that they may not have had for a while after lockdown. It's been about creating safe, enjoyable spaces and environments, so people are wanting to be confident. It's also about having the confidence to, or taking the risk to actually book with you. So again, the experience of being able to change a booking easily, to make a cancellation or to alter a booking has also been shown to be really important. And so that customer first experience has been more vital than it ever was before. So when you're thinking about the experiences that you're selling, also make sure that you have included the pandemic element of that jigsaw. All of you have done brilliantly and shared your COVID statements and become COVID secure and, you know, displayed with, you know, your we're good to go badges. But actually, what are you doing personally? How are you communicating directly with your customer base to really ensure that they feel the experience is going to be a good one, and give them the confidence to part with their cash or to take what they might feel is a bit of a risk to come and visit you during this autumn and winter. And then I want to talk really about how you can support your claims. What do I mean about supporting your claims? Well, really what I'm describing is how you're going to prove that you have or you can provide these great experiences. It's about setting up systems, which means that you are gathering the right images, photos, videos, latest reviews and data to show your customers exactly what those experiences mean to people. So that might mean that you create a much more robust system for collecting reviews, making sure, for example, that you have asked each and every customer in your follow-up emails after they visited you or stayed with you to review. Maybe asking them very direct questions about, did they leave feeling more relaxed, or what did it mean to them to be able to spend time with their families and have some fun. Maybe you could even interview people using just your phone and just a quick video, something really off the cuff, authentic, open, and really human, so that people can really understand why coming to your place will give them those experiences from kind of a first-hand point of view. So it's important too that you've made your list of stuff, you've made your list of how that translates into experience. You've started to understand what your data shows in terms of the experiences that your customer base values most. But also now you can start, as we move towards creating more strategy, you can start to make a list of all the ways in which you can prove the point that your experiences or the experiences you're selling are worth their salt, worth your customers booking or spending their hard-earned money. Okay, so we've really talked about those first three areas: brand, customer profiling, and then thinking very clearly about the product that you're selling and how we need to put experiences first, and how it's important to really sell the emotions around the experiences that you are selling. We now need to bring this all together into a strategy to make this coherent and to make your efforts consistent, to really help build that resilience for the future. We've already touched on this, but the first point I want to make is plan how you're going to show, not tell. So obviously, you know, we all remember those days at school, or maybe your children have recently done this in school, and they go and do show and tell with their teacher. And it's about showing the class about what they may have done or experienced. So how is your business going to show what you're selling and show the experiences that they might have, and not just tell? We can all do that, you know. Come and stay with us in our beautiful 4-star B&B and be instantly relaxed, as well as being on the foothills of Helvellyn. That might be very important and it might be vital for your customers to understand your location, but really, does it tell that story, and does it really resonate with your customers in the same way as videos or images? We know, for example, how important Instagrammable pictures are on Instagram. Millennials have been shown to make decisions on where they're going to stay or visit based on how Instagrammable the pictures are, or the location will be for them to be able to take their own selfies. We know too that videos are vital on Facebook. Video uploads on Facebook have exceeded YouTube for some years now, and video is absolutely king or queen of Facebook. So again, are you really exploiting those opportunities to show your customers about what your brand is, what your values are, and what your story is? So if you have made notes on your value system, and if you've made notes on your story and the different chapters within your stories, can you then put to the side of each and every point that you've made a way of showing your customer base that that is real, or how it's done, or the way that you do things? So I'll give you an example. If you are a business that is selling your eco credentials, for example, to your customer base, then just simple things like quick video of taking delivery of some eco cleaning products, or taking delivery of some new organic bedding, or you meeting with a fantastic new award-winning toiletry supplier, an eco toiletry supplier, might be really a much more powerful way to show your customers what your brand is and what your value system, without having to write it chapter and verse all the time. So I want you to go through all those content opportunities that you might create within your business and think about, how can we show our customers rather than always just telling them? We already know from digital marketing data that your audience's ability to read anything is reducing all the time. So we know that they make brand decisions within 10 seconds based on what something looks like. We know that people don't read beyond about the first paragraph. We know that people prefer not to scroll on websites, and we know that the top third of your website has to be the most important bit. So we know that showing and not telling all the time is vital. It's also important to define the customer journey and think about what your score is. So what do I mean by what your score is? When we think about customer journey, and we talked about this in a webinar last week as well, we need to think about the different points in a journey. And if we put it very simply and relate it to the visitor economy, you might say that they start by dreaming. So they dream of having a relaxing break, or taking the kids away for a fun weekend away, or a day out, or you want to get back up to Cumbria to be able to do some good walking. You're dreaming about that. Especially at the moment, again, thinking about what your customer needs and desires are even more emotional than ever. Maybe they are locked down for a bit. Maybe they haven't been able to get out and about in the same way in 2020. So think about that dreaming phase. How does your business score at that dreaming phase? Are your images amazing and inspiring? Are your videos uplifting and exciting? Do you use the same consistent language to really resonate with your customer base, using words like inspiring or exciting or emotional or relaxing or restorative, all those kind of emotional based words? And actually data shows, for example, that the word luxury is searched, I can't remember the exact figure, but I remember it's something about 70-75% less than it used to be. But words like restorative, relaxing, digital free, and phrases like that are on the rise. So we know that the way people search on Google is an emotional way. So do you use the language that your customers are using in that dreaming phase? How does your business show up at the browsing phase? So people move from dreaming to browsing. They're starting to look for ways in which they can take their family out for the day. How does your business show up for that customer or that part of the customer journey? Do you have a good, easy website that they can browse through and have all their questions and questions answered and all their concerns mitigated? Do you have inspiring videos that are going to help people make a decision? So when they move to the booking phase of the customer journey, they absolutely know that you're top of the list, even if they've got to pay slightly more. And data does show that people will pay slightly more for great experiences. And then finally, how does your business show up at that experiencing stage of the journey and that sharing stage? So basically your customers have gone from dreaming to browsing, they've booked, they've then experienced their stay or their day out with you, and then they've decided to review it or to share it with their friends or to recommend with their audience on their own social media channels. How do you fit into all those stages of the journey, and really how do you score against that? Are there any gaps? Can you improve it? Does your brand value or your brand story become a little bit weaker in some parts of that journey than others? So it's really useful to really take time to do that. Then once you are aware of where your gaps might be, optimize everything. What do I mean by optimize? I really mean that you are being consistent across all your platforms and channels, whether that is an Instagram account, Facebook, a YouTube channel, a Pinterest boards, your website, your booking platforms, your OTAs, your online booking systems, your review sites, wherever you are on the internet, whatever your digital footprint is, are you consistently branded across all those channels? Do you use the same words? Have you got the same logo displayed? Do you use consistent language or have consistent voice? So it's really worth going back to check that, because we all know that we have, you know, that social media channel we've used slightly less than others. I would also say at this point that if you traditionally use Twitter, Facebook and Instagram, but you feel maybe that Twitter doesn't work for you anymore, it's probably better to drop it than to leave it unattended, because that can sometimes cause confusion for branding. Think too about where the magic extra is. So when you're creating your strategy, you've got all these different elements and topics, as we've discussed in this webinar, noted down, written on a great big whiteboard in your office, created as a brand document within your business. Make a note of where all the little magic extras, and that might be just the lemon drizzle cake, or it could be just the way that you train your staff to greet customers in the first place. It could be the way that you turn the beds down. It could be the organic eggs you use for your breakfast. These are all magic extras that you can bring out and can be little highlights and magic moments in the story that you tell. Noting them down is important, because when we run our own businesses, we forget how brilliant we are. We forget those magic moments. We take them for granted. We assume everybody knows about them. We feel like we've banged on about the fact our cream teas are homemade till the cows come home, and maybe we don't need to say that again. Never assume. And if you're sick of saying it, then show it. You know, show the chef making the scones if that's what you'd like to do. Also, to create a backup plan. So as part of your strategy, do you have a plan, dare I say it, for the lockdowns, or more travel restrictions, or different ways in which people might like to access your business? Do you have the ability to sell gift vouchers or packages for the future? Have you got a plan set up so that you can give people confidence that they can move bookings or change their tickets? It's important that you have that lined up now. We have learned so much in 2020 that we don't need to feel quite so caught out a second time, and we can build some resilience so that you can continue to create a strong relationship with your customers, even during times when they can't possibly visit you, God forbid. And that really brings me on to this final part, to talk about the tools and the assets you have in your business as part of your overall marketing strategy, your branding, your customer definition, your products. Because we all understand what tools are in our business. the tools that you have are things like social media is a great tool to get people to visit your website or to get people to engage with your business. But an asset is things like your subscriber list. So a tool is something that you can use, but actually isn't owned or isn't an asset in your business. If Facebook decides to close tomorrow and that's your only way of communicating with your customer base, then as a business, you would lose some resilience there. It would be very difficult for you to communicate with your customer base. But if you have managed to turn at least some of those fans on Facebook into email marketing subscribers, and maybe you've created a VIP club or an exclusive area where people are first to hear about offers or first to hear about new products or services, then that really becomes an asset in your business. And even if Facebook closed down tomorrow, or there was a big sudden change in government guidelines and you needed to connect immediately with your customers, not rely on an algorithm, then bear that in mind too as part of your strategy. How can you strengthen that relationship with your business, with your customer base, in order that you have, you don't allow that relationship to be broken down by outside influences. So think about the tools and the assets in your business. Another asset obviously is your website, so make sure that that is optimized in all the ways that we've already talked about. Okay, so we're about...
Sorry to interrupt, Emily.
Oh, yes.
Daniel's asked a couple of questions. So the first one is, which do you think will become the most important social media channel?
Oh, ouch. That's a difficult question, Daniel. So we can look at all sorts of data around how social media channels are growing. So we know, for example, that Instagram is one of the fastest growing social media channels, but we also know that the click-through rate from Instagram to assets like websites or booking pages is still very low compared to something like Pinterest, for example, which isn't growing fast, but also has a much, much higher click-through rate. It also really depends on your customer base. So if you are attracting audiences, millennials, people who are under the age of 45, those people who are very interested in aesthetic, in interior design, or being at the most trendy place in the whole of Cumbria, then Instagram is going to be so much more important for you. Equally, if your business relies on a lot of B2B interactions, then Twitter or LinkedIn might be more important. So it's difficult for me to predict which is the most important. I think the most important thing to do is focus on what's the most important for your business. I hope that helps, Daniel.
Great. And he just had the second question as well. So what email marketing company do you favour?
Well, I have no connection with MailChimp and I am not endorsing them, but they are the one I use. So MailChimp traditionally, they now call themselves an all-in-one marketing platform. And that's mainly because you can do 1,000,001 different things on MailChimp. But just as an email marketing tool, it's great in that you can get, or you can have up to 2,000 subscribers for free. So it's great for small businesses. It also integrates with many of the existing booking systems, CRM systems, and e-commerce systems that a lot of small businesses use, like WooCommerce, for example. And it's very easy to create pop-up subscriber forms or embedded subscriber forms. So that's a great one. But there is also an alternative called MailerLite, which is MailerLite. And that is an Eastern European based email marketing platform. And again, I know quite a few businesses who are converting to that. They offer 1 or 2 extra features within the free plan compared to MailChimp. And again, once you've looked at the costings and the integrations with your other platforms or tools that you use, you might decide to try that. So I hope those 2 are the first I would go to have a look. I hope that helps.
Great, thanks, Emily. That's it.
Is that it? Okay. Thank you, Daniel, for your questions. So thank you for listening to today's webinar. I really want to just go through or recap on some of the takeaways from today, just to remind you that relationships matter and need investment. So don't ever feel that you can't be truly authentic, truly open, and truly emotional, if you like, with your customer base. Really empathize with their position, their desires and their needs, and make sure you truly understand them like a best friend. I always say it's better to have fewer or fewer people in your audience, but an audience that's truly invested, than worrying too much about having hundreds and thousands of followers who don't really get your brand. Values count, and values count in this digital world more than they ever have done before, and my prediction would be that values will continue to count ever more. So being a brand that keeps your values under a bushel, or you don't want to stand out from the crowd, or you think that it's not important to share your values, have a revisit of that within your brand and make sure that your customers fully understand exactly what your business stands for, what's important to your business, and what you feel is important for your customers. It will make a difference and help build relationships. Also too, you will have some skills gaps after today's webinar. You might notice and think, I haven't used email marketing before, or I've never used or I've never created a customer persona before. Again, reach out. There is one-to-one coaching available as part of this program for eligible businesses, but also reach out to your own networks, whether that's Cumbria Tourism or your own immediate business colleagues, to really upskill yourself, or at least be able to succinctly and successfully outsource to another business. Software to help, just as a reminder, Google Analytics is a great start. You all need that on your website, and it's important, even at a very basic level, to understand who your customers are, where they come from, and how they travel through your website. And on Google Analytics, I really like behavior flow. So go and have a look at the behavior flow under the menu on the left-hand side. And that's a great watch for any website owner. Facebook and Instagram Insights is also really important. Pretty much all of you will be on Facebook and Instagram, or one of them. Using those instant insights and understanding how engagement is changing through this pandemic is vital. MailChimp or MailerLite, I just mentioned that you, Dan, are the two email marketing platforms that might be the first port of call for any of you who haven't signed up yet. And I talked to you about being able to use digital tools to map out your customer journey or your personas, and Smaply certainly gives you the first month for free, smaply.com that is, and that will, you know, for those of you who like to get really technical or visual, that might be a useful tool for you to use. And finally, I would remind you to plan, and then have a backup plan for that too. So make sure that all these things are written down and not just floating around in your head, because they will be clearer, they will help you be more consistent, and it will also be a great place to return to should you feel that you are losing resilience or feeling a bit wobbly in the coming months. Being able to refer back to this kind of plan will give you the strength and the consistency you need for resilience. So just as a reminder then, the Digital Cumbria support will help you improve productivity, profitability and performance, and that support is worth up to £5,000 per business. It is for SMEs in Cumbria only, and existing ERDF, that's European Regional Development Fund rules apply because it is European funded.
Emily, just while you go on about the programme, I'm also just going to launch the satisfaction poll as well. So if everybody could complete that before they leave, please. Thank you.
Thank you very much. If you could do that while I'm talking to you about the support, that's hugely useful to our programme and helps us continue to provide you with the support that you need. So the Digital Cumbria team contact details are as follows. For any of you who would like, for any of you who would like to follow up on some of the things that I've talked about today, or whether you'd like to access some of that one-to-one support to dig into some of these areas in more detail, with a business coach such as myself. I'm on the team, but we have lots of different coaches, so that you can really work one-to-one with somebody if you feel like you want that support. And that is all from me. I'm Emily, one of the coaches from Digital Tech Cumbria, and thank you very much for listening today, and good luck.